All right. Hi, everybody. It's 1. So we will get started with our Facebook Live. Today we are doing abstract flowers. So any color you want, really. If you have these colors, you can absolutely use these colors. If you have favorite colors, you can certainly do those. Today I have green, yellow, black, red, and white. So very, just a minimal amount of color. I'm going to try to get my live to come up so I can start seeing questions. Let's see. Sorry. Back to overview. Sorry, I'm trying to get my tablet to work so I can see everybody talking. Come on. So I hope everybody's doing good. I know that there is a little bit of overcast here in Washington. Permission. Come on. So for whatever reason, our tablets are being not so nice when it comes to trying to post a live. And I've heard one person say that they're having issues with their tablet, which I have a tablet, and another person say that they have issues with their iPhone or iPad. All right, so we're up. Wonderful. So it looks like we have 28 people who found us. I hope that it was easier to find us this time. I know after the last time trying to post it to the event, I had no idea I wouldn't be able to save it to the videos afterwards. So we were always going to have to post straight to the page, the main page. That way it will fall to the videos tab later. So that is definitely how we're going to have to work this. Is every time we do one of these, we are going to do it from the main page. That way we can be able to see it later under the videos tab. That's why the one we did under the event, I think it was the birds one, I have not been able to get into the videos section yet. So I apologize. We have 37 people so far, so I'm hoping people are able to find us. And the more I do it and the more I do it to the same exact place, hopefully the better it is and easier it is to find us. So I really apologize for that. Let's see. So we have a couple of paints coming up after, for each Saturday about at 1 o'clock, I'll be doing a paint. I might add in Sundays, but at this point right now, I just like doing it on the Saturday. That way it's just one a weekend and it works out pretty well. So we have, let's see, the flag in the sky coming up. That's going to be this one. And then we have, what was the other one? You think I would remember, but to know me is to know that I don't remember. Let's see, Ocean Cave. That one is coming up. So there's the Ocean Cave one. And then there is a flower one that is pretty much, it's an open paint. So we join, we learn how to paint the flowers. And it is just a fun kind of way to learn how to paint a flower. And it's pretty abstract, pretty easy. So that one's a fun one to do with children especially. Alrighty, so a little bit off screen. Thank you. See you guys? I love being able to see. There we go. Is that better? Let's see. Let's move it a little bit more. I had it all set up and one of the cats decided that it was going to jump on the table and take it down for me. So I had to get it all reset up again. I have it all taped off and exactly where it's supposed to be. And then, you know, between kids and cats, whatever. Alrighty. There we go. Better? Yay! All right. So I had one person ask me if they were supposed to start off with a black canvas, and you certainly can. They have black canvases at Michael's, but this one is just one of our plain white canvases, and we are going to take our big brush and black paint. If you have a lot of blue paint, you can definitely do blue. You know what I think the problem was? I think that, I wonder if I can get it to go like this. I think that's what I did incorrectly, is I rotate your wrist. You can't turn while phone is live. Well, that's good to know. By the way, guys, you cannot turn the phone while the phone is live. Oh, Facebook just gave me a big old warning. So let's try that again. There we go. All right, so hopefully that is better. Okay, so anyways, so you could start off with a black canvas. If you don't have black paints, don't like black paints, you can do a navy blue. You can do any color background that you want. Just the black shows up really well for these bright colors that we're going to use for our flowers. So right now I have black for my background. We have the red and yellow for the main part of the flowers, a little bit of green, and then white. So those are the colors that I'm using right now. You can certainly use any colors that you would like. I'm going to go ahead and start painting with my big brush, the whole canvas black. So it doesn't have to be really thick. It just needs a good black coat over it. So it doesn't have to be perfect because you are going to be painting over the top of it. You just want to get a good coverage of black on your painting. So, and if you have a really thick coverage, it's going to take a while to dry. The thinner the coverage, the thinner, the quicker it's going to be to dry. So I am just going to start getting that black coverage on the canvas. And remember, whatever you do to the front, you're going to do to the sides. So I'm going to take it off the easel for a second and just pick up it and do all the sides. So however you look at it, you're not going to see any white canvas. You're going to see all black. And again, you don't have to get every little pore because there's going to be white over it. There's going to be flowers over it. And this one, we actually will use some of our leftover paint. I'm going to put it on the floor of my studio and we're going to fling paint at it. For those of you, you probably want to take it outside or if you have a tablecloth, but know that when you're flinging paint, it seems to go everywhere except for where you expect it to. So just be careful with that. But the fun part of that painting is ending with the paint flinging. And I know a couple of people were nervous about it when I taught it as a class. But once you get into flinging a little bit of paint at your painting, it is so much fun. So I am literally just putting a good little black coat of paint on there. It is not a huge, thick coat. It is just a good coat of black paint. I want it to be able to dry pretty fast. Those of you with hair dryers, you can certainly speed up your drying process with hair dryers. That is one of our favorite things to do here when we're in classes is we have my helpers drying people's paintings. So when you're drying a painting, at any point, you want to keep it a good 6 to 8 inches at least away from your painting. That way it doesn't blow the painting around and it doesn't dry too fast. If it dries too fast, you could have cracking. And then if you dry the front and then go to the back and dry and then kind of go back and forth with that hair dryer, it'll help it dry underneath and on top. So that is a good back and forth is a good way to get that dry and dry nicely. All right, so I am just literally painting the whole canvas a thin coat of black If you do too thick, you're going to really need to use a hair dryer to get it dried because you won't be able to paint over the top of it. It'll blend. You don't want that black to blend. You want our next level of paint to sit on top of it. So it really needs to be a thin layer of black paint. But that hair dryer will really help you out, especially if you have kids doing it. They tend to go pretty heavy on the paints. So that will help. Alrighty, so just know that for those of you who are just joining us, that this will be under the videos section of the videos tab on the main page. So from here on out, we'll be posting every video from every live from the main page, not on the event, because when it goes on the event, it's a little harder to find and it doesn't go to your videos tab afterwards. So that is why one of those is still under the event. The bird one is still under the event. So if you look under past events, you can still find the video under the, I think it was birds on a wire is what we called it. So it's still there. It's just a little harder to find. So from now on, we'll be using the main event page to go live, and it'll post directly to the video section on the main page. So sorry about that. It was a little bit of a learning process for me too. I was very surprised when it got over with and it wasn't there. So it just doesn't save to the videos. So I'm just getting a thin layer of paint all over the canvas. I'm going pretty thin with it because I want it to dry pretty fast, because I don't want to turn a hair dryer on because that will not sound so good on video. So I'm doing a very, very thin layer to get this to dry as fast as possible. So after this black layer, we're going to use a little bit of our white to give ourselves that dry brush layer in the background. All right. Make sure I got all my sides. Whoops. See? That's why I check. Never with me. I get started on one thing and then I go to another before finishing the last one. So anyways, I hope everybody's having a good week. I hope that we are nearing the end of our isolation, but as long as we are doing good and getting this thing to get over with, I'm all for whatever needs to be done. My kids are not used to being in the house this much. They are very much used to being on the go. We have a big yard, so we have gotten a volleyball net and a what is that, tetherball. We have like really cleaned up the yard so they can really be outside playing basketball or whatever it is. We just keep getting different activities for them to be outside because they are making me crazy inside. They gotta go outside. All right, so I have a good layer of black over the whole thing. There are little pieces that you can still see of white, and if we were doing any other kind of canvas painting, I would say let's cover it all, but for this purpose, it's not necessary. I'm just getting the rest of that black out of my paintbrush. So, all right, with this black out of my paintbrush, I am going to just a little bit wash that black out because black likes to eat everything. So if I went straight from black to our white paint, then we would see more of a gray color, and I don't want that gray color. I want that white color just to be there. So I'm washing out the brush. I am really drying it back out. So drying out your brush is really important. I am not a big person to wash brushes constantly, because when you're teaching and whatnot, it's very easy to wash the brush out and then go and dip it right into your paint, and then you have all that water in your brush. So you just gotta be really careful. I use rags. We all have those towels that we'd rather not do anything with, but we don't want to get rid of. So I use those towels for my rags. I cut them up for classes, and that way once they get ruined, they get thrown away. So we try to use the least amount of paper towel possible. So that's the rags. We try to get the rags to use for drying out our brushes. Alrighty. So I'm going to take the white. I'm going to touch the tips of the brush to the white. So we have a little bit of coverage on the tips of the brush. And then I'm going to go over the part of my canvas. So the main part of this section of the canvas is where most of that white is. So that is where I'm going to put a major part of that white. I still want to see through it. That's why I'm not using very much paint. I still want to see through it. I still want to know that there's a black canvas under there. I don't want like a solid white color. I want to know that there's a black canvas under there. So just a little bit of paint on the end of your brush, and lightly just stroke up. You can kind of just stroke up and down all the way across it, and that gives you those nice brush patterns. With this brush, you have several different sizes. So if you turn it so thick, thin, and then any angle in between, and you can kind of roll it in your fingers, and that's going to give you all those different sizes. See all those different little sizes happening in there? And you can see that part's not fully dry, so that's why that's showing up like that. So that's where that hair dryer would really come in handy, is just giving yourself a little bit of a dry. Which I don't care. I'm not putting a flower over it, so it doesn't matter. All right. I want all sorts of different colors. I don't want just one color of gray over the back of this. I want all sorts of color happening. Different shades of that white and gray showing up. And it's just messy, just messy. The less you try, the more natural it's going to look. So don't try too hard. Don't stress yourself out. Just take your brush nicely and let it kind of smack over the canvas. There we go. All right. So you can, now I'm not gonna wash my brush. I am going to do the same thing with a little bit of that yellow. I don't want as much yellow, but do you see how it's barely on the tips of the brush? Barely, barely, barely in the yellow on my brush. And I'm just gonna go a couple different places and doing that same thing, adding a little bit of that yellow in. Now barely put it on your brush and just tap it a couple of different places just to get that color happening. And I'm not washing my brush. I know it's going to drive some of you crazy. Not washing my brush. I want it as dry as possible. I put a little bit of red on there, and I'm going to just do the same thing. I'm going to go over the canvas in different parts. And this just gives us that neat background. And now I probably should have gone yellow to green to red, but whatever. Same thing with the green. So here's, I have some green on it. So I'm just gonna touch it over the canvas. See all those neat colors happening? Nothing is symmetrical. Nothing is just wild. Just go wild on it. It's fine. There we go. I think that's enough color for the back of the canvas. All right, so you have just every color that I'm gonna use in my painting, I now have on my canvas. So if you're using a ton of different colors, you might not want to do that so much. You might want to just use a couple of the colors. So if you're going like a rainbow, or you can dry in between. So if you're doing like a rainbow kind of thing, theme or whatnot, or just a lot of colors, you can put a color on and then dry, and then put another color on and dry. That way you see those layers and you don't have that blend, because then you might end up with more of a brown kind of color going on, and that is definitely probably not what you want. So I am done with this big brush. I'm going to put it in my water so we don't have a lot of dry out. So I took my medium brush, that's what I have now, and that's what I'm going to do with the flower part of this painting. I will start off, let's see, do we want to start with yellow or red? Let's start off with yellow. So I'm going to take yellow on the end of my brush, and I will go, let's do one of those middle yellow flowers. So I'm just going to take the brush down. You're going to go from the center of the flower, because we're going to cover that up with black later. So center of the flower and then down. Center of the flower and then down. And I have a good amount of paint on the end of my brush, and I'm just going pretty fast. Center of the brush and down. And then just keep repeating that over and over again. Center of the brush and down. If you want more of a full effect to a flower, you can take it and just go slower. So it's the same thing, center and then down, and then you kind of release when you get to the end. But you can kind of put more color over the top of it just to get more coverage, more colors happening, depth to your color, brightness of that yellow. That's how you, this is quick, center and then down, and then this one's a little slower. So this one you have a little more control over your flower. So there's the first part of those two. And you're going to want these flowers to be everywhere. You're not going to want right in the middle. You want some kind of traveling off the side of your canvas. You're going to want some up here, going off the bottom of the canvas down here. So a little trick, if you're using an easel, I like to put my canvas on the tip of the easel. That way you can kind of bring your brush down without hitting the easel. So if you have an easel, if you're working with an easel, put it on the tip of the easel. And then the same thing. I'm going to go center and then down. Just let it fall right off the canvas. So I'm working with little amounts of paint at a time. I can always build on those colors, but taking away color is way harder, especially when you're trying to do more of an abstract. It's just like a one and done kind of like quick movements. So I can always build on these colors. I can always come back to up here once this one's dry and add a little bit more yellow to it. If you're looking at the flowers that we originally did, like just looking at this painting over here, this yellow flower has black, yellow, red, white, all in the petals of these flowers. So in a little bit, when we use our black and our white, we're gonna play around in this, adding different colors to our flowers. So let's do another one right here. All right. So if you're wanting to go all the way around, it's the same idea. Center out, and you're just taking it and center out. Am I using a Filbert brush or a block? It's a flat brush. It's a flat, but you could certainly, if you have a different kind of brush, you can certainly do that same kind of idea with it. So this one's a flat brush. I try to stay as basic as possible with the brushes so they're easier to find and replicate later. That way you can get them anywhere that you can get into. Walmart, you can always order and then pick up curbside with Michaels. I love doing that, ordering online, using all their coupons, and then going and just, you call them once you're there and they come out to your car with your order. It's pretty awesome. Alrighty, so I know that these aren't very thick. I can go back in just a little bit and I'll add a little bit of color to that. So I want to let this dry a little bit and kind of play around on the other parts of my canvas. So I'm going to do one over here, and I'm going to let him fall right off the edge of that canvas. I want to be able to look at my canvas from the sides and see these flowers everywhere. So if you're looking at, there's a ceiling there. If you're looking at this painting, if you look at the sides, it continues right off the side, off both sides. So if you're looking at this, I just like to continue. Everything I do to the front, I'm going to do to the sides. So if it continues out, I want it to continue right off the side of that painting. Alrighty, so more yellow. So for the kind of like a little more, I don't even know what you'd call it. What is that called? The stuff that everybody makes everybody sneeze. It's the yellow bushes that make everybody sneeze. Why? Why can I not remember? Oh, okay. So it's not sagebrush. You guys tell me what this word is. It makes you sneeze. It's yellow. It's everywhere. I do not remember. Somebody has to know what I'm talking about. Anyways, I digress. Hopefully one of you guys know what I'm talking about. So with that, I am going to take my same brush. I didn't change brushes. I didn't change colors. And I'm just going to dot it. Dot, 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 dot. Just tap it. And then like it'll make itself. Just all over. It'll just make itself. Scotch broom. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Look at all you guys. You're like, duh, Leah. Scotch broom. Look at, you guys are awesome. Everybody knows what that's called. See, if you've ever been at one of the classes, you know, I need help with my words sometimes. Oh, Scotch broom. Why in the world did I forget about that? Scotch broom. All right. So I'm just tapping. I am just adding layers of that yellow. I didn't change brushes. I didn't change paint or anything. I'm still on yellow, and I'm just doing different thicknesses and trying to recreate the Scotch broom. Just a fun little bush color back there. And I am going to let some of that stay really thick and some of that just be really thin. And turn your brush. Turn your same thing with your big brush. You have the thin side, you have the thick side, you have every side. Just kind of roll it in your fingers and let it kind of make itself. So I'm just going all over. And you know, at the center, it's going to be thin. And as you're going out, it's going to, or at the center, it's going to be thicker. And as you're going out, you're going to thin out just a little bit. You guys are so awesome. People are going to be wondering later on, why in the world did they say Scotch broom all over the comments? Thank you. Alrighty, so I have different layers of that Scotch broom. I'm going to take it off the canvas a little bit. And then I'm going to do a very, very light one back here, like it's way, way far away. So I'm just going to do little dots, little bitty dots. And just let it be way back in the back. Now these are fun to cover, so you can add layers to your flowers. They don't each have to have their own space. Adding those layers, letting them touch, letting them cover, that's all great. It just adds to your painting. All right. Oh, we have black-eyed Susans. Yes, those are what those called. Yes, thank you. And now I'm going to go back, now that I haven't played with this a little bit, and just add a little bit of paint to those, just to thicken up that yellow. And again, I'm not being precise with it. I'm just doing center and flinging it out. Just keep adding a little bit to my paint, center and flinging it out. Nothing precise about this abstract painting. It is, we all know what these things are. I might not know the word for it, but you know what they are. But it's not a precise, like it's not a picture that, it's not precise. It's not a perfect picture of what these things are. It's very abstract, very, very light and easy. Hello, Cami. All right. Okay, so I'm adding yellow to these flowers. And this is another good place. If you're at home and you have access to a dryer, hair dryer, use it. This way you can layer over the top a lot better than what I can, because I don't have that dryer, and you don't want to hear that dryer running on this thing. That would be horrible sound. So I am just giving a couple more layers to that yellow. Now, when we go and play with this red, you're going to have to wash your brush. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be like fully washed out, but just go ahead and wash out your brush. There's a little bit of yellow left in there. That's fine. And I'm going to do the same process with that red. I don't know about your paints, but I know that red likes to cover. So be careful. I'm going to start out with a really bold one, the same way I did over here. And this one is same idea. It's a little bit thicker. So I'm pushing harder on the canvas. I'm pushing my brush into the canvas a little harder to get those larger strokes happening from the same brush. And then this flower just has more petals to it. So I'm going to take, and remember, keep turning your brush. So you have all sorts of different sizes happening. So all different sorts of sizes of petals. So I'm turning that brush, just keep turning it. And I'm just bringing out, so center, fling out, center and fling out. And that's going to create that flower. And this one just has a ton of petals to it. You know, I really should, like beforehand, write the names of these flowers down so I can remember what they are later. Oh, yeah. Anyways, so there is one. So we can do, let's do one of those little pretend flowers in the background. So here, I'm just going to take it. I'm going to go dot and a little bit of a V, dot. Okay, later on we'll add a little bit of color to that, a little bit of something else, but that's a flower off in the background. I'm going to put another flower off in the background. All I'm doing is little V's, little dots. And then as my paintbrush starts to get less paint in it, it gives me all sorts of different colors of red in there. Some of them just don't have as much in the brush. So it's just very free. You're very free back there. You're very free to just kind of dot and pull it up, just dot it, make a V out of it, however you would like. These are just flower colors, flowers in the background. All right, so I am going to take a little more red and I'll make this one up here. So this one is a different flower. If you're looking right here, this one I'm going to be pulling it up and then putting the stem at the bottom. So this one I'm going to pull and go up. Same exact motion. We're just going and flinging it up instead of down. All right, so let's play with up here. So the same thing as we did with the other flower down here. I'm just going to go all the way around it. Make that, and you can come and bring it from this end in if you want to fill out that petal a little bit more. So I'm just touching it and bringing it to the center now. And that fills out that petal. That gives you more of a rounded in instead of a pointy end. So I'm touching it to the canvas and pulling it up, pulling it to that center point. And that's going to give you a more rounded end. Let's see. Oh, more red, more red. We all love red. I think I'm going to add a little bit of white to this red. So I just touched the red and then I touched the white. And I want to do maybe a little bit of a white and red flower over here. And that's going to give you all sorts of colors happening. See those colors? All sorts of colors happening. And then I'll do another one like that. I'll do a full one happening. Let it fall off the canvas. Whatever you do the front, you're going to do the sides. So I'm letting that canvas or flower fall off the edge of my canvas. We'll go back in with the black later on and kind of define more. So this is just getting our coverage. So we're just adding all these little flowers to everywhere. Let's do one of those little brush looking ones, and we'll do a little bit of red. So I'm going to hold my canvas. So sometimes when you're dotting, you're an aggressive dotter like I am, you have to hold the canvas or you'll push it right off the edge of the table or right off the side of your easel. I've knocked over canvases before, and people in classes have knocked over canvases right off the table, just aggressively poking, good bunk, 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 and then poof, there it goes. While it's entertaining and funny, it's frustrating. But anyways, I digress. I'm going to do another one back here. I have hardly any paint to my brush, and that's going to make it to where it looks a bit further off in the distance. So this is not as defined as this one over here. And we'll use our black and a little bit of white to help define some of that other color. And you can just add a little bit and then fling it up just a little bit just to add just a little bit of red. All right. What other colors do we want? What other flowers do we want to do? I think I'm going to do another red and white one again just to get myself some contrast. And where do I want to put it though? How about right here? All right. So I'm just going to go right over the top of that yellow. So since when you're blending, when you're going over the top, you just do one stroke. When you're blending, you would go back and forth with that brush and make it blend. But I don't want it to blend. I want it to sit right on top of that other flower. So I'm just going to let it rest right on top. There. So we have that other flower covering up a little bit of that one. Let's see, anywhere else? I'm going to add a little bit of color to that red one, and a little bit more color to this red one. And then I have a little bit of white in my brush, so that is going to add you some layers of white and highlight to your flower. So I'm not going over each petal. I'm not being precise about where it's going. There's nothing precise about it. I'm just going from the center and flinging out with that white. That is all. There's nothing precise about this painting, I promise. It just is. Just let it be. So I'm going to do another one of those little colorful bush things right there, because why not? I'm going to add a little bit of red for depth. There we go. And see, there's nothing precise about it. There's nothing perfect about any part of this. So we are just literally playing with these colors. Now that I don't have much paint on my brush, I'm going to go back into this yellow one and add just a little bit of red color to that yellow one. Not a lot, just a little bit, just enough to have more than one color there. So barely any paint on my brush, and I'm just tapping it, just tapping. So let's see, what else can we do? Let's add some white to this one right here. So we're adding some of those highlights to these flowers. I'm just going around and looking at the painting as a whole and trying to see where I want a little more highlight. And on top of these yellow daisies, I will add a little bit of red just for color. So there's nothing linear, there's nothing solid about pretty much anything that I'm doing here. Everything you can see through. You can see through this to see the yellow. You can see through this to see the black. You can still see through all of those little layers and know that there's all that canvas behind it still. So it's very, very wispy, very abstract, not natural. Definitely not natural. Let's see, anything else before I want to start on? You guys are quiet today. You're so quiet. Everybody's just doing it. I added a little bit of white to my brush and adding a little bit of highlight to this flower. So in a minute, we'll switch to our black and do some outlining and low lights to our flowers. Right now we're adding the white and the highlights to our flowers. It's gonna add just a little bit of white to here. I mean, I have so many colors in my brush right now, it's not even funny. I have not washed my brush out. And I know that'll make you crazy, but believe you me, it's really cool in this kind of a painting. Be careful though, the more other colors that you're using, these colors kind of all blend together, the red and the yellow, and of course they make orange and a little bit of pinky when you add that white. So I'm not going to end up with any kind of strange browns or anything because I'm not using those colors. But if you are using those colors, keep that in mind, that you might have to wash a little more than what I'm doing unless you're drying in between and it's layering on top. You just have to kind of keep in mind that if you're not dry and you're blending like this, you're going to end up with a lot more bland colors because of the whatever colors you decide to use for your painting. So if you are using a lot of different colors, please remember to try to dry it in between. So that just helps layer instead of blend. That really, really helps with that process. So I'm going to go back in it to some of those faraway flowers, and I'm just adding a little bit of white to them just to give them like a little center. So I'm just dotting over the top of it. That is all I'm doing right there. I want one way back in the background, somewhere back there. This side is a little unused, so I wanted to put a little bit back there. All right. Okay, so I have added a little bit of color to the whole thing. Now you can go back and forth with that medium brush and the small brush, but for this next part, I'm going to be adding white to the canvas. So looking at this one, you see all of these little things back here, all these little wispies. There's black and there's white, and it just kind of runs through. So it gives you the idea that there's stems. There's just more happening. So I'm going to put a couple things of white up here, and then I'm going to go back and put black and probably put a little bit more white over the top of that. So I'm going to go ahead and play with that a little bit. And when we go to our black, we can add our little heads to our little Black-Eyed Susans bats. So I'm on that little brush. I have a little brush and I have a good amount of paint to the end of it. I'm going to take it, I'm going to point it, touch it, and then up. So this is the least amount of pressure to your brush as possible when it's hitting the canvas. So I'm barely touching it and then up. Barely touching the canvas, up. And I keep adding paint after each little time. And then you can add in other layers of it. And that'll give you different layers and different colors of white happening. So that is how you're going to do the black as well. You're not going to see the black as well on my video because it's black on black until it hits some of these flowers. That's why I'm showing you how to do it with the white. So go ahead and even on the side, remember everything is happening on the sides as well. So this is just all over the canvas. Now when I run out of white paint, I am going to switch to the black, and this is the same strokes, the same way of doing it. So I'm just going to dip my brush in the black, get a good amount of paint on that same little brush, and I'm going to make myself some stems. So in here, I'm going to give, and it's touch up, and I'm just giving myself some stems. So these will actually connect because you know these little stems that are happening in here. No, they're not perfect. Nothing is perfect. Just keep touching and flinging it up. Touch and fling up. So I'm barely touching my canvas. I'm going to get all sorts of different sizes of stems happening. Now I want some stems happening in here. So I'm going to go, so this one is an upside down flower. Let's do this one. So this one, it'll point, and then you're going to take those, that's the base of the flower. So it's the same thing. You're taking and flinging it up. Let's see what this one right here too. So this one is the base of the flower. So take it and fling it up. So there's the base of that flower. Do we have another one? Yep, right there. So here's another one. Take and fling up. And there's the base of our flower. Now for the stem, for these, you can take, touch, and fling down. And it's just one light stroke. One light stroke. Now if you messed up and you want to do it a little deeper, try to go right over the top of it. So I'm not thickening in my lines up. I am making them more solid, but not thicker. And I want to be as free as possible with my lines here. I don't want any lines to be the solid, like tree trunk kind of a feeling. I want as much as possible to be very wispy, very light. So as least amount of touching the canvas, barely touching the tip of your brush to the canvas and flinging it up. Just keep flinging it up. And I'm making little branches happening in my little yellow flowers. And then in my red flower, I'll do the same thing. So here in my red flower, I'm going to do the same exact movement. So this is the same movements all over my canvas. I am just doing more concentrated in some areas than in others. And I'm going to add a bunch of different lines happening in this background because we have stems everywhere. We have grass shoots. We have everything happening all over the places. So I'm just doing a bunch of black lines all over the canvas. And there is nothing precise about this. It is literally just touching the canvas and flinging it up. When you're doing your lines, if you have all the same size line, try to extend your line a little bit. Try to think about extending the line. So I have some that are 2 inches, some that are an inch, and some that are 4 or 5 inches. So you're just nothing is the same. You want everything to be kind of different. Everything is a different layer, a different thickness. You want to be very free with yourself. Don't think too much about it. Don't put a huge amount of thought into like, okay, this stem has to be right there and this stem has to be right there. Don't do that. Don't worry about it. Be very free with your actions. Just go all over your canvas, adding different. Hi, Tracy. If you're behind, just know that this will go straight to the video section of the main page when we're all done. So you can start over if you would like when the video is back up and go at your own pace. That goes for anybody. You can just go at your own pace with those videos. It's pretty cool. I love it when you guys share all of your ideas and all of your paintings too. And I think everybody loves seeing them just as much as I do, seeing everybody's take on one person's teaching. And I love it. I absolutely love seeing how creative you guys get. See, I forgot to turn the sound off on my phone, so I'm getting messages, and I really apologize. And if it's anybody from having questions about the paints or whatnot, or I apologize, I can't see them until I'm done with the live. So I'm just giving that little flower right there a base. All right, for your middle of your Black-Eyed Susans. So this one down here will kind of go above the flower, and it's a good amount of paint that I have on my brush, and then there's nothing straight about this bottom. I just kind of tapped and made that bottom so that the top I just kind of rounded like a sad face and then filled it all in across the bottom. Oh my goodness, I swear to Lord. Jade, please check Camille and see if that is her. I apologize if that was my child. She has a tablet, and tablets are dangerous things for a child, especially when they want attention. All right. I am doing another one, so sad face. So that's the top, and then filling it in just by pulling that down. So that's all that's happening right there. Here's another one, sad face, and then pulling it down. That's how you're making those Black-Eyed Susan faces there. Let's do, so this middle, here's just a middle, and I try not to be precise. I know that it's round, and it will be a rounded circle, but it is not precise. It's not this perfect round circle in there. So I'm just going to go through adding a little bit more of those black layers, and then my flower should be pretty dry. So I'm going to go back in my flowers and add, so I put a little bit of paint on the edge of my brush, and I'm going to do the same idea. Pull, center and pull all over. Now I like to work the canvas as a whole, so I go all over the canvas and you kind of take a look at it. Even if you close your eyes really fast, just kind of let yourself go blank and then open it again and say, okay, I need a little more color here, or I need this color here. When you walk away, when you close your eyes, you'll see it differently when you open your eyes again, because we concentrate so much on what we're doing, we stop seeing it. So when you're doing it, just kind of walk away for a second, close your eyes for a second, and then take a look at it again so it's new, so it looks new to you. We're able to see all sorts of different things. So I'm taking that black and I'm working all over the canvas, and I just want to do the canvas as a whole. I want to see the canvas as a whole instead of just work on one flower. If you work on one flower, you could possibly overkill that flower and then you'll be really frustrated. So I'm just working on it as a whole canvas, kind of just going everywhere, adding little bits of black to it. Let's see. And then kind of step back, take a look at it again, and see where you might want to look and add any more. So I'm just going all over the canvas, taking a look and adding in a couple of different places. Like this one, I didn't even have any of those little black lines in. So I added that in. So if you just kind of if you're getting frustrated, take a break, go get some carbs, get a drink of water, come back at it, and then take a look at it anew. Sometimes I have to take a whole couple of hours away from it because I'll just get really frustrated. But this, if you're letting yourself just be free and just kind of filling lines everywhere, you'll see it start to come together. You'll see all those different layers and all those different colors and the darkness of the black and the lightness of the white, just kind of defining all of these pretty flowers happening. Let's see, do I want anything anywhere else? Remember, if you ran off the side, remember to go ahead and do those side. Oops, there's a little bit up in here I want to do. All right. Now remember, you're only playing with a couple different colors. So if you come back and you're like, oh, I really want to add more, you're only playing with a couple different colors. So just go and add a little bit more once it's dry to the top of it. So we did that. We put our Black-Eyed Susans, the centers on, and now I'm going to wash the brush off a little bit and dry it. And then I'll have my yellow, same little brush. I'm going to go, it sounds like a great idea, Kathleen. Absolutely. I am really stopped. I'm sorry, but I can't wait to see your painting. So make sure you guys upload your paintings. I don't know about you guys, but it seems to me that everybody enjoys seeing everybody's take on their paintings. I love going through and just seeing all the differences. Everybody sees things differently. No matter if I walked all of us together straight through everything, you see things differently than I see them. Your technique will be different than mine. And that makes everybody individual and awesome. And I love it. I don't want little replications of my idea. I love seeing your take on your painting, and that makes it yours. It is pretty awesome. All right, so I'm going to add a little bit of black. I know that this black is still pretty wet, so if you have a good amount of yellow on the end of your brush and you just kind of touch the top of it, that is going to give you that black sitting on top of there. Or the yellow sitting on top of it. So I'm just doing that on top of my little black-eyed Susans. I added a little bit of yellow to the top of them, and then I've added the little bit of yellow to the centers, and since it's still wet, it lets some of that red come through, and that is perfect. That's pretty awesome. I really like it. Let's see, what else can we do? This is a pretty easy painting. It's very free, it's very fun, and there is not a lot of, if you messed up, you would be the only one to see it because you knew what you were trying to go for, but anybody else would see that free abstract look. So it is all yours. I am just going back in and adding little bits of yellow to some of my red flowers just to get another layer of color on there. All of these flowers have all sorts of colors happening in there. And remember, if you are doing lots of different colors, you're going to want to dry your canvas because then you'll end up with muddy colors. If there's a part of the flower of the yellow that you didn't like, that you didn't get coverage enough, you can go back in making these same movements and brighten that flower up a little bit. So I'm just going back over some of the yellow and brightening up that yellow flower a little bit. And remember, look at it as a whole. Step back, see it as this whole painting. It's not just one flower at a time. You have a whole painting sitting in front of you that you can just go and touch different places and touch up in different places. Alrighty, so we've added all of the little colors, all of the little fun. You can go in, and if you're wanting to, this is a controlled splatter. So when you're doing it, I have a lot of paint on my brush, and you can kind of hit it in a couple different places. And I'm just hitting with the brush. This is not my favorite. I like the uncontrolled splatter. That is my favorite. So that being said, I am going to put it on my studio floor because that's what my studio floor is for. And I have this paint left over. So I have all these colors of paint, and I am literally not going to clean my brush. I am going to splatter from light to dark all of these colors on this painting. So hold please, because I can only do so much at a time, and I will be right back and grab the camera. So I threw it on the floor. Unplug you. There we go. I'm gonna bring you over here. See my messy studio, because nobody's ever coming here anymore, so that's pretty sad, but I get to have you guys all to myself on the internet for at least a little bit. I cannot wait until this is over with so I can actually see people again. All right, so like I said, I'm starting out with these colors, light to black. So I'm really putting every single color on there. I'm really, really, really dipping that color in here, and I'm gonna fling it. That is literally all I'm doing. There's nothing precise about it. A ton of it and fling it. And then fling it. When you start having less on your paintbrush, you can still fling it and it'll add all these little dots. And so that's pretty much the same idea when we're doing stars, is we don't put as much on the brush and we start flinging it. And then the more you fling it, the more you add all these little bitty dots. So I'm just adding all these dots. So now, not washing my brush, I'm going straight for yellow. So that's the next color. And then, blah. This is fun. I promise. It is fun. So you just add different amounts of paint and you fling at it. And it just adds to that abstract look. And then as you have less on there, you're just going to kind of dot it. And you can always bad finger it, but I can't bad finger it now because I don't have anybody else to hold the camera. So bad finger is when you take it and you tap your one finger and you tap the brush on it. And that helps with getting splatters everywhere. But I can't do that because I'm holding camera. So I'm just adding splatters all over. Now I'm going to switch to green. Didn't wash my brush. See that nastiness? Yum. All right. And fling. And then fling some more. And it's just a ton of fun. I know that around here it's raining outside, but if you want to put a towel down and take it outside, or if you have a dollar store tablecloth, that kind of thing, and put it outside on the ground, let the kids go for it, let you go for it, and I promise you will have just as much fun as the kids. You guys have to stand back a little bit from each other because I guarantee you will wear each other's paint if you're not careful. All right, so now I switched to red. So it's the last color. No, black is the last color. And I'm just flinging it. And now I'm going to switch to black. I just want a little bit of black just to have all those colors on there. And this just adds to the whole idea of it being abstract. So probably when I turn off the camera and I have two hands again, I'm going to take a little bit and tap a little bit more because I want more of those little bitty dots. All of those little bitty dots I would like to have back here. So it ends up being, oh, did I make you guys sick? Whew, being a lot more of those dots. So with the bad finger, so I will try to show you. With doing, I think it's tight. With doing the bad finger, I'll show you, and hopefully not fling paint on any of the other canvases. So I'll show you for just a second. And I'll be as gentle as possible so I don't actually fling it on all the stuff behind it. So I'm going to do white again, just so I can show you what I was talking about. So bad finger, you take your finger and your brush, and it's a bad finger. So you take it and you go bad finger. And that gives you, until you throw the brush, because why not, right? Anyways, that is bad finger. And that gives you way more little dots. So you just kind of take it and you bad finger. See all those little dots happening? That gives you all those itty bitty dots all over your painting. And you will end up with it all over your hand. So just saying. But that gives you all those little dots. Now when you flung your paint at it, you're going to want it to dry flat. Dry it flat, because if you're not, if you dry it like this, it'll start to run. Maybe that you want that color. Maybe you want it to happen. But I am going to take mine, dry it flat. As always, remember, sign it, own it. It's yours. Let that happen. So let's pick red this time. I'm just gonna sign it. Make it mine. And I appreciate you guys, and take a look at the events section for next week's painting. And we'll paint again. I have, I think, 3 more coming up that I've already scheduled. So I hope to see you guys next time. Have fun. And if you're watching the video later on, even if it's like a week later, post them. Put them on the video comments. Let everybody see your awesome pictures. I cannot wait. You guys, until next time, thank you very much. Bye.